It's not mine.
Whatever kills you makes you stronger.
Now it's
whatever kills you makes you stronger. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you. Except for sharks. Sharks always kill you, and don't make you scared. Anyway,
no, sharks don't always kill you. That's not true.
Yeah, but they're not going to make you stronger.
Land sharks.
Mentally,
maybe. It's a long one.
If I punch the shark in the eye and he lets me out of the grip, I may have lost a leg, but I'm mentally stronger.
Okay, Captain Quint.
Maybe. I can take that to a degree. All right, yeah.
You're supposed to either punch him in the eye or punch him in the nose. Sorry.
I know. Oh man, this is my. I changed my angle a little bit for my room, so it's now we're more angled this way because we had guests. We usually here is we had guests in our house, and they decided to use my office couch, and we put like a mattress in this room, so people were sleeping down here, and there's a big TV over here. People have been sleeping down here for a week and a half now. So we I guess when I cleaned it out outside, I would shift the angle this way a little bit just to give the perception, because you actually get to see that there's a hockey net back there, because I actually have a net in my basement, and I can't really, you can sort of see it. But I shoot on this net all the time down here, and it's
as a goalie you should shoot all the time.
I do, and it's a great sense of relief. It really is nice. Everyone should have a hockey net in their house somewhere, because it's just like it's a wonderful thing to be able to do it.
I've got two quickie pre-shows. The first one is, as we know today, you could bet on sports in New Jersey, and they chose Monmouth Racetrack. And I am, for one, A, didn't want to go. B, I am not going to glorify Monmouth Racetrack because they've got a history with horses and drugging.
Yeah, that's not a good place.
And so I can't support that. So when it goes to a place that I feel like is just, then I'll put my hands up and wave and get silly. But for now, nope.
Yeah. I mean, sports gambling, it's amazing to me that it is as popular as it is, because I mean, I don't gamble very much. Believe me, I would love to gamble. If I had money, I would be a problem, but I don't have money, so I'm not a problem. Because I do, and there was a period in my life when I did a little bit, but not everyone sports, just like in Atlantic City, playing blackjack and stuff like that. But that was a long time ago now, like 20 years ago.
Right.
So yeah, but to me, that the only thing that was exciting about gambling to me really was the fact that I would only do it if I felt like I had some control over it. Like if I was going in, like if I was going to bet, if I was going to play blackjack, I felt like I was kidding myself, of course, but I felt like I was a player.
And that's what less control.
Yeah, I would have a system on blackjack where I go in, and I would bet, 3 hands, doubling each hand. If I lost 3 hands in a row, I'd walk away. But if I won any of those 3 hands by just doubling my bet each time, I would continue to move forward. And if I doubled my money, I would leave. That was my thing, and this was really successful for me a lot. Like I would go with the $100 and leave with the $100. I would say 4 out of 7 times. It wasn't like maybe. I mean, obviously, I would think I was winning slightly more than I was losing. I remember one time winning 5 times in a row, which was like incredible. But you can lose pretty quickly too. So, and I always figured if I had more money, I would do this with like $200, and that would definitely work, right? But anyway,
that's what I.
Go ahead, Mike.
That's what I used to do when because I don't my game of choice is poker. Because of the very reason that you mentioned, Dak. I don't like to have to be in every hand like in blackjack, where you have to be in every hand. And if you have one idiot at the table who decides to not hit on a soft 16, it screws up the entire. Oh yeah, no, I get pissed off. If you don't know the game, you have no business friggin' playing.
I always cracks me up because Captain Neo and I used to do this all the time together, right? And so this is I totally our joke would always be we would go to $5 tables. We weren't like blackjack. I'm not like a $20 table guy or $10 table guy. I'm a $5 table guy, which is even hard, which is almost impossible to find now, I guess. Because
it is hard to find. It has to be like 2 a.m. now.
Right. Now it's at least $10 tables, right? So anyway, and that's even hard to find. 15 is more norm the standard, but $5 tables. Right. So we used to be like whenever anyone did that, we had a rule like that we said with each other, because you know what, this is all random, and it's like it's completely. So you can get mad at somebody for doing that, but then you can always say, the person who gets mad would always say, "Why are you at the $5 table, you jerk?" For getting mad. Like if you're getting mad at that, like why are you at the $5?
Oh, but I wasn't at the $5 table. I was usually at the $15 to $25 table, thinking that better, more intelligent people would be at those tables. Well, no, they're drunk.
They actually control your fate, which they don't.
I would do slots or roulette, but here's the reality. The reality was when I worked in the hotel business, even though it wasn't a casino hotel, it was near casino hotels, and we would deal with a lot of people who still would have casino deals because it was all the same company. I saw what happened when people really lost, and it's heartbreaking. And that really taught me, if I didn't already know at that point, just for the most part, stay away unless you just want to have a little fun one night. It's not. That's all.
Well, and that's my system. I don't have the resources to lose my shirt, so I usually go with a certain amount of money. I don't bring debit cards or anything like that with me. I bring a certain amount of money, and if I lose it, I leave. And if I play and I win, I put the money that I started with away, and I play with the winnings until either I lose it or I leave it at a certain amount. And then you don't really get really taken to the cleaners then.
Now, echo like this is the last one is sports related. The Big O in Montreal, we've all been there.
Oh, boy.
He's getting a new roof so they could have the 2026 World Cup. The U.S. just got the World Cup.
You do that? We got to stop Mike on his
I know.
Your cup sounds crazy loud, so just let me.
Sorry.
That's okay.
No problem.
So 2026, the Big O is supposed to have a retractable roof. And it's like 50 years too late. Like it's just, what's going to happen. What's going to happen is the roof's going to be in. They'll have the World Cup. A month after the World Cup's over, the roof will start leaking. Like you just know that's going to happen.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think this whole concept of like a 2026 thing is freaking me out. Like that's way too far off. It's like that's crazy. I mean, what the Olympics doesn't even do it that far out.
I know.
I mean, that's like you're talking now. We're all going to be 10 years older. It's just nuts.
Well, that's because the Olympics is every 2 years, winter, summer. So they only go 4 years ahead. Whereas the World Cup, they've already planned. I think the one in 2022 is going to be in the Middle East. It's going to be like in Oman or Saudi Arabia or something like that, and it's going to be in like October because it's going to be like 120 degrees during June. So they're going to move it to when the temperature is a little less, so people don't pass out in the stands.
The place that they're having it next after Russia, was it Qatar?
Yeah.
They're already having people die building that place. Like it's ridiculous.
Right, that's what I was saying. It's like they can't have the World Cup in June in Qatar because it's 120. So they're going to have it in October, and that's insane. But yeah, I mean, I guess they want to announce it when they're having the World Cup. I mean, honestly, the U.S. is not in it, Italy is not in it, so I don't know how much I'm watching, which is not.
All right, anyway. So let's get started. We got a lot to get in here. You are Mike. You're going to go to Game 7, I'm guessing.
Game 7, Marley's Stars tonight at Ricoh Coliseum. Yes,
that's gonna be fun. Ricoh Coliseum is such a cool place. I was there for practices of the World Cup. It was so much fun.
Yeah, it's a very updated and well kept AHL facility.
Yeah, but
I've been in other ones.
It's neat. I mean, the small arenas like that are awesome. They really are. They just have a real feel to them. Like a lot of the college arenas are just incredible. They're just like Princeton, great stuff. Cornell. Great.
Oh yeah, Princeton's great.
You got it. Penn. I like the Penn rink too. I like that.
Penn rink is great. I like that too.
They're like mini versions of big.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's like I don't know. Anyway, so let's get started here. We have Hello Hockey World. Today is Thursday, June 14th, 2018.
Happy Flag Day. I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
Happy holidays. Fun with flags. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And today we're going to touch base first with we got so much to do. We weren't here yesterday. We weren't on the show yesterday because of all kinds of craziness that was happening. My kids' last day of school and all sorts of things. Mike's still super loud. Sorry, I don't know what that is, but
yeah, it sounds like you're rolling dice, Mike.
Yeah, whenever you touch your cup, it's like crazy loud. Sorry about that. I don't know why.
Okay, I'll mute myself then.
Yeah, that's perfect. So we first have to, of course, touch base on this. The fiasco that has become the Ottawa Senators, and let's start at this. Well, I'll start with this one. Okay. I'll say obviously nothing's been proven yet. This is all allegedly. There are circumstantially, lots of people thinking that there's something to this. People now blaming, people blaming the Ottawa Senators season on this. That seems a little extreme to me. But and now it's spread into even more stuff today. Like James Duffy saying, I've heard there's more to this than this, that the worst is yet to come about what we haven't, that's crazy. If that's the truth, it does feel like that to me. It feels like tip of the iceberg type thing. Whether or not this person's guilty or innocent. But what a situation, what a terrible, terrible situation, for Mike Hoffman to be in, just literally he's been with this woman a long time, and if that's what I get kind of mean. Like he has pretty much, been told pretty much that at this point, regardless of what happens or what's proven, which is horrible to say, but he's got to dump this girl or else he's not gonna be able to play in the NHL because no team's gonna have him. It's crazy. And that is what and I think that's unfair, people, but that is the way the NHL works.
Okay. First, I now I'm getting an echo here.
Okay. We don't hear that.
Okay. But now it's good. The first thing is, I don't want to get into, because we don't know for sure what's going on. We only have the report from the Ottawa Citizen, and we have to take that at face value, and it's going to be adjudicated, it's going to be investigated, and then we'll find out whether Mike Hoffman's girlfriend / fiance is involved in these tweets and Instagram posts and everything else. It's ugly, it's dark, it's sordid, it's mean-spirited, but we don't know for sure if it's her. So I want to stay away from the accusational tones of this. But I think, obviously, if this is going on during the season, it had a bad effect on the room. It couldn't, there's no way that it couldn't have that.
I understand.
There's no way.
It has an effect on the room, but it can't, I don't mean to say this kind of stuff happens all the time because this was extreme, but it is true that there's stuff going on all the time. Right. And now whether or not, and very rarely does it come out. Remember like the Flyers Dry Island or things like that. Like very rarely do things happen the NHL hockey players and hockey players in general are really good at keeping things in the room, that what's in the room stays in the room. They really are good at it to the point where, my dog is just peeing right behind me. Do you see that?
No.
What the heck was that?
We do have a statement if you want it.
All right. What was that? Why would you come down here and do that? Sorry.
Mike Hoffman's agent basically said Robert Hooper on Monica Sarek said, given the seriousness of the allegations, Monica is meeting with her lawyers and any future comment on her course of action will come from them. So it's serious, obviously.
It's serious. Right. And there's no question there's something to it. And there's no question this woman is not liked among the other, because so many people have come out. Among other Ottawa Senators' wives and girlfriends, how many people have come out supporting?
Well, most of the chatter after the report came out has been from ex-senator wives or girlfriends. Well,
I think there's a reason for that, and right. That's how it would be, and that because you don't. If you're still in that room, no one knows if Mike Hoffman is still going to be around or what's happening there, or if this girl is still going to be around. It doesn't feel like they can. It feels like they absolutely have to trade Mike Hoffman. The question is, can they trade Mike Hoffman?
That's where I wanted to go with this. And Russ, give me your opinion on this. I think, first of all, I think they absolutely have to trade Mike Hoffman. But while these accusations are hanging over their head, good luck for Pierre Dorion to get a bag of pucks for him, because who wants a player who's got this hanging over his head coming into their room, because everybody's going to be thinking the worst possible scenario. I also think that this means there's no way that Erik Karlsson's coming back. Not a chance in hell.
Yeah,
I really don't.
I agree with most of what you said. I still think there's a chance Karlsson comes back if Hoffman's cleared out and all of it's cleared out. I do think there's a chance.
This might. First of all, moving Hoffman out.
But I wanted to mention one thing about that. Moving Hoffman out, I think this is going to be like an NFL trade. I think he will literally go for like a second or a third round pick. I don't think teams are going to go any deeper than that based on everything that's going on. And I think that's what's going to end up happening.
Yeah, it's very possible. The other thing is teams here's the thing about that though, because he's a goal scorer. He's a legitimate goal scorer, and that matters here, right?
But he's only got 1 year left on his deal too, so that's playing into it too.
You bring him in, you try, and the fact of the matter is, teams often don't put enough stock into this kind of stuff. I bet the media is making a lot out of it, and this is extreme, but there's a lot of times this is not the first player to have a girlfriend that everyone hates, put it that way. I mean, this is like, I've been around that a couple times, and I've seen players traded with with wives that people, or parents, people that they just can't no one can stand. And it's like, and this, so you can sit back and say, okay, on one hand, we know let's allegedly say that she did this for a second, and we know what the deal is with her, so therefore everyone's going to steer clear. So what does it really matter if you trade, if Mike Hoffman stays with her and you trade, because it's not Mike Hoffman doing this, like, this is something that you just everybody has to steer clear.
But it doesn't matter. Like, the fact that it's not him doing it, it still has created tension on a team.
On the team, no question. But
again, this is still something where, other people will look at it and say, you needed to take care of this sooner, and he didn't. And it escalated to this. Now, I'm not saying it's all his fault. It's not. But clearly it got away from him. And I think that's going to –
No, I would bet you anything. He doesn't – if I was to make a bet right now, he doesn't even know for sure if she really did this.
Okay, and that's impossible. But at the end of the day, it's still attached to him. And there's
oh yeah, no, you're right, You're right, Russ. You're right.
Here's where the story gets, not sorted, but it gets into more of a quagmire for the Senators. Not only did Mike Hoffman know about the accusation, about what was going on? Did he have knowledge of it before this was released? But what about the organization? What about Pierre Dorian? What about Eugene Melnick? I mean, I saw some letter from a fan who was like, okay, you got to sell the team, Mr. Melnick, because you're running a clown car show there. And it's like, okay, if Eugene Melnick didn't know, I mean, if they did, and they had contacted NHL security about this, because this is not a flippant issue. This is something, in these messages, she's threatening. She's threatening. She's making accusations. She's hoping that Erik Karlsson gets his knees taken out. I mean, it's ugly, sordid stuff.
And they knew about this, but I really do believe they knew about it. But at the same time, I don't think they put enough stock into it that it could really. Because I'm telling you, there are a lot of misogynistic guys in this league that don't put a lot of stock into what women say. I'm just going to, or think that it really matters, or think it could possibly bring a team down like it has. And what you're seeing now is that I think Melnick's issue was probably just not thinking that this was really important enough. Like that he knew what was going on, and he knew that there's other. I mean, this is the Ottawa Senators we're talking about, and this is the team that brought us, Ray Emery and Jason Spezza back in the day, and all those kind of rumors that came out. We all remember them, and they were partially true and partially not true. Ray Emery did stuff. Spezza may not have. Spezza may have. I don't know. But this is Ottawa, and Ottawa is
but if you want to get back to the Ray Emery situation, it definitely scarred his career. The Flyers picked him up for next to nothing. He never made the kind of money he thought he was going to make, all based on what happened in Ottawa with him.
Right, but the Flyers still picked him up. They still gave him a chance. He had a half decent career with the Flyers.
Yeah, but he didn't get to the heights that he would have normally, and pay-wise, he didn't get close to what he would have.
Pay-wise, it affected him, and I do think this will affect him, because in the NHL, you are affected by this kind of stuff. There's no two ways about it. And you should be, but we don't. Again, we don't know anything. And if she's being wrongly accused, that's horrendous. If all this is like something,
sure, anything's possible. I mean, I'm not going to put anything.
And then I feel horrible for her and Hoffman, because everybody in league.
The one I feel the most awful for is Erik Karlsson's wife. I mean, first of all, she didn't by
somebody. We don't know who it is.
Right. She didn't release this. This got released because the court documents were public. Yeah. So this is bringing a whole slew of attention that she really didn't want. But just to get back to the hockey aspect of this, I'd say, okay, so, I mean, obviously, Hoffman, if they're trying to trade him, which I'm sure they are, they're not going to get anywhere close to the the value that they would have gotten for him, say at the deadline or before this came out. And this is the thing. It's like, and I sort of agree with this. Dorian did not have any. He did not have to let other general managers know that this was going on about Hoffman when he was talking trade. Yes. So he could have, if he had made the trade and then all of a sudden this came out, how much of a sucker do you think that general manager would have felt after finding out all this was going on?
Probably would have. I mean, it depends. Okay, there was stuff. The Flyers signed a certain free agent a while back who had a pretty notorious career.
Billy Tibbetts. So did the Rangers.
Not. That's one.
Traded to the Rangers.
I'm talking about a certain goalie the Flyers signed. Okay, and they didn't do the research on a lot of this guy's personality and background stuff that happens, and the baggage there are baggage that comes with these players. And if you don't do the research on it, you're in trouble. Like you have to check out. You have to know a player's baggage you're trading for. You just can't sit back and pretend that doesn't exist because the player is really, really good. That being said, say Hoffman comes out and says, you know what, I'm shocked by this. I didn't know she was doing this. I feel horrible. We're no longer a couple. I want to do anything I can to help, Karlsson and his wife in the healing process here. He's my teammate. He's my longtime friend. If he comes out and says that, what then, Mike? What do you feel?
Well, I think that gives teams trading for him an out in the sense that, okay, if he didn't know, then we can give him a second chance. Everybody has been, it can happen to anybody that they get affiliated with somebody who could be a little uncontrolled. I mean, so yeah, I think I
actually know the way that works pretty well. So that can happen.
But or I think this has more of an effect is with Karlsson because, okay, I don't think he's re-signing in Ottawa. I really don't. It's a 1-year situation, and this I just think exacerbates the situation in terms of them being able to get top value for a guy who I don't think is going to re-sign. I mean, I think they still have to trade him because he's not. They don't want to pay him the money that he's worth. And I think he probably now, after all this comes out, wants a change of scenery. I don't think anybody would blame him for that. But I don't see how either one of them can come back to that organization. They just need a clean start.
I think you're only going to get a player that has a 1 year left on his deal expiring, or like a high second round pick, or maybe a conditional first. But I doubt it. I really doubt it. Most teams
for Karlsson. For Karlsson?
Oh, you talking Karlsson. Now, for Karlsson, there'll be more. But Karlsson, I do think, has a fair chance of staying now. I think when this gets cleared up, then I think the offer will be made. And I think there's a better than 50% chance he'll stay after this. I do.
It may have helped his chances of staying in some weird way because it's like, this.
No, I don't think Hoffman.
No. May have helped Karlsson's chance of staying, obviously.
Oh, yes.
But Hoffman's gone. The only question I'm talking about with Hoffman is how much teams will actually give for him, and that's a debatable thing. But
I don't think this situation changes the fact that Eugene Melnyk and the ownership of the Senators do not want to pay him what he's worth. If they do, then I'm wrong. But
that's the thing. All I've ever been told, Mike, is that they are going to make him a really good offer. We haven't seen that offer yet. So you know what? They might surprise you.
Yeah, if they do, then I don't know. I don't know the mindset of Erik Karlsson. I'm not going to put myself in his position. But I would just say the direction that team is going. If what we talked about earlier, Russ, about them keeping the number 4 pick this year and not giving up the pick and giving the pick up next year to Colorado is true, they better hope Erik Karlsson resigns, because if he doesn't, that team is labeled for bottom 3 or 4 in the league.
Yeah, and I want to get to that. That's a good transition.
But again, Ottawa made this decision, I think, a long time ago that they were going to pick in this draft. They prepared for that. I don't think they're turning away from it, because at the end of the day, no matter where they do end up next year, this year's player will have a year of development under his belt compared to whoever they get in next year's. And I think they're going to still go with what they're going to go with this year. I do.
Well, I asked this question to the readers today because this is a fascinating question. And for those who aren't completely aware of it, I didn't even look it up to see exactly how it worked, because it was a little bit of a strange stipulation in this trade. But so basically, there is a first-round draft pick that's in the Duchesne deal that was protected this year, that they didn't have to give it up this year if it was in the top 10. However, if they chose to keep it this year, the Senators chose to keep it this year, they would give next year's pick, no matter what it was, to
Right.
Colorado. If they let Colorado have this pick, they keep next year's pick. Now, remember, of course, that next year, we have a good draft this year. It's very deep. Russ has been telling us about it. It's a solid draft. But next year has this potential superstar in it, right? So that's what people are wondering. What are they going to do? Because they have, when you look at it, next year you're looking at Jack Hughes, who many people are saying is the best player to come out of the draft since Austin Matthews, right? So here now they're going to keep their. What are they going to do? Are they going to keep it? And I asked the fans, and I got a lot of responses to this.
The fans aren't making the pick. You know that.
Oh, I know. 52%. This is 3,100 people already in just a couple hours. 52% say that they believe the Sens should keep this year's number 4 pick and give the Avs next year's number 1 pick. 52, but that's not a lot. I mean, that's within a 3% margin of error. You're talking about
but that's what I expect them to do. And I do think
and I think now, but one of the scouts for Colorado came out and said yesterday that they have not been told yet, and that they are heading both directions. So,
Ottawa can let them know the decision up to the night before. I think the day before the draft. I think they said June 21st. That was the condition in the deal.
That is a condition of the deal, but they could actually just do it at any point because they could go to Colorado.
Just think about this for a minute. While all this sounds great and sexy, if you draft Philip Zadina this year, by next year's draft, he could be on your team.
Right.
Hell, Russ, he could be on their team in October.
He could be, but they probably won't be, right? So by next year, he will be.
Yeah. The thing is this, though. This plays into the fears of the people who like their teams to tank, right? This is the worst. The part of this is the Eric Lindros Toronto situation, right? Where you have a potential star. That was worse because it was a kid that was Lindros and it was from Toronto. But where you're a potential of having traded away something so incredible.
Right.
So this whole year, to me, if it almost like I was thinking about it, it almost tilts the bar for them keeping Karlsson even more because they've got to be good this year. And if they trade
or they have to get in a Karlsson deal assets that help them right away and not futures. They have it. I mean, Russ can tell you they have a pretty deep and talented prospect pool. Logan Brown, Thomas Chabot, Gustafsson, the goaltender they got from Pittsburgh and the Broussard deal. I mean, they're not loaded. They don't have tons, but it's a pretty well stocked organization. So they don't need futures. I mean, if they're trading Karlsson, they're going to need players who can play right away, especially if they decide to keep the pick and pick Zadina at 4th overall and give up the pick next year because, it could be that scenario all over again. But nothing was bad as that one, Eck. I mean, please, the Leafs traded 2nd round picks to get a bunch of journeyman veterans just so they didn't finish last overall, and then in the end they ended up giving up the better player because New Jersey had the 3rd pick and they picked Scott Niedermayer.
Right, which would have been playing on Toronto until last year or something like that, But so the whole thing continued. So I mean, it's a fascinating. It's one of those things, man. I always wonder about GMs and why they hate themselves to make something like this in a deal. Like where you have 2 different picks, like where you can actually screw it up. Just make the deal. Like if you're going to make him a 1st round pick, just he could have not protected this year and simply given him the deal. I'm sure it would have been fine.
Do you know what?
This is the best time of the year for boobery on the internet. And so there's a handle called Bruins Mafia, and it says that this is breaking that Erik Karlsson's going to the Bruins, and the centerpieces are David Backes and a 7th round pick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beware
of false prophets is all I can say.
What killed the trading of 1st round picks without lottery protection forever was the Phil Kessel deal. That's what did it because Brian Burke has come out after that, and now that he's on Sportsnet as a commentator, he's said in retrospective analysis that he should have lottery protected the pick. Well, great. That, because honestly, then you.
I mean, in order to lottery protect you have to do something else like they did here. You have to give them the next pick for sure, or you have to do something like there's, the idea is you can very rarely lottery protect a pick and then give them something worse. Like you have to, if you're going to do that, it's got to be something that they're going to be guaranteed.
No, I mean it would have just moved the picks ahead 1 year, but still it would have provided some. They gave up the second overall pick for Phil Kessel, and that was the whole point. I mean, the whole point was Brian Burke misinterpreted the quality of his team, thinking that they were a playoff team, and it's not going to hurt us to give up the first round pick. Well, you always have a backup plan, and the backup plan was, your defense wasn't that good, and Phil Kessel was hurt until like the 20-game mark of the season that year. So, it's just you always now have to have a backup plan. So I don't blame Pierre Dorian for doing that, but honestly, if I was them, because I know I'm fairly sure they have to trade Erik Karlsson, and I know for a fact they're going to trade Mike Hoffman. I would give up the number 4 pick, and I would pick next year. But they're not going to do that.
Yeah,
they're not going to do that.
I don't know. Because this is the thing, because what it does is it sets in motion so much craziness, Mike. You're kind of right. And it sets him. No, it doesn't. This is the thing. It really doesn't set in motion craziness from where Russ is approaching this from a perfectly logical standpoint, which makes total sense. And it's actually how most of the GMs think. Russ is saying, and I can say all the GMs think that way. And some of the owners, though, might be more nervous about this than the GMs, because they're thinking fans are going to want them to tank. And when you have a fan base that wants you to lose, there's nothing worse, right? So that's like that's a big issue, And
they're saying that now. You get Zadina into rookie camp, they're going to change their mind. If we find out in a week that they do have to trade Karlsson based on this, the offers will roll in. Like, they're going to get good assets for Erik Karlsson. So the chances of them being the worst team in the league next year are slim.
Let's talk about that, okay? Because a rumor came out last night, and then I worked on it more this morning, that said that there was a deal that has been discussed that would send Erik Karlsson to Edmonton for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins plus something else. It's an interesting discussion, I think, because Ryan. So if you're getting Karlsson into Edmonton, you've got to clear money out, right? And we keep hearing Lucic's name coming up, and I don't see any way in hell they're trading Lucic. But people see, unless they give him away and like give a first round draft.
Terrible contract. Who's really taking?
I mean, you got to get this is like almost like wait for Seattle and trade Lucic there. It's not they'll give you'll give him a first round pick and Lucic will go on and win the Stanley Cup with the Seattle team. But right. That's what this feels like. But there's nothing here. I mean, if you're Vegas, you take Lucic in the number 1 pick. You might that's another situation that could possibly happen. So we'll get back to Lucic in a second. Let's talk about, because there's a really interesting twist on that one too. But with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and the Oilers, moving Ryan Nugent-Hopkins plus something else, I don't know what else it would be, for Erik Karlsson, this is all contingent on the Oilers being able to work out an extension with Karlsson. Okay, so that is definitely involved in this.
Well, that's a big if too. Yeah,
it is a big if, but it's not. Everyone kind of knows what Karlsson's going to get, so it's not crazy. It's a matter whether Karlsson would play there, right? So
but then Karlsson, Draisaitl, McDavid, if you're locking up all that money on that, I don't see how they still have a great team after that.
Right, which is why you have to move move Nugent-Hopkins and or Lucic to get rid of $12 million there. That's roughly what you're doing.
I mean, even if you do that, you might be able to be like an 8th seed. Sure. I mean, is it going to be able to be much more than that? I mean, you're assuming Yamamoto can play next year. Maybe he can. He looked pretty good this year at times.
Yeah.
When he was up there. But I mean, there's a lot of spaces to fill on that team.
There are. Mike, what do you think of this possible trade? Mike is frozen.
Mike's frozen. Yeah, okay. I would say, look, I mean, end of the day, I think it's a possible trade for sure. I think that a team would have to really – I mean, you're taking Lucic. Edmonton's eating half of his salary. And then if you're taking him, you're probably gaining draft picks just to take him as well. So right. I don't know. I mean,
I don't think Lucic would be involved in this one. Well, and here's the interesting thing about
why do you think it's Nugent-Hopkins? Just because of salary?
No, it's because of what I heard. I mean, that's
okay. I mean, look, anything's possible. I think
he is in there for salary. I do think that's why, but I think that at the same time, I think it also is something.
Does Draisaitl go back to being a center then if they do that?
That's a good question. I mean, it does. The Sens need to do something right now. If they're going to move Karlsson, that's significant and something that their fans can grab onto, right? They have to. That Nugent Hopkins, is that something they can grab onto?
Not enough.
No, it doesn't feel like enough to me either.
It's not enough. I mean, I think fans would be like, yes, we know what he is. He's a good player. He's got good speed. He really is a third-line center in this league.
Yeah.
So I think
talking about Nugent Hopkins, Mike, and whether or not this trade makes any sense from Ottawa's perspective.
No, I don't have access to Cap Central, so I don't know how many years Nugent Hopkins has. I think he has 2 left. I think he has 2 or 3 at the most. That's $6 million per. In that sense, it makes sense for them because they're not strong up the middle after trading Broussard. But
he has 3 left, including this year. 3 left.
Yeah, so that, I mean, $6 million, it locks you in at a certain price point, and that's around what Karlsson's making now. So in financial terms, it would make sense.
Right.
But I don't think they're getting enough value there. You're talking about apples and oranges. I think Nugent Hopkins is a good number 2 center. I don't think he's a number 1, even on Ottawa, who right now the number 1 is Matt Duchene. And Matt Duchene, it's been proven that he's been a better fit on the wing rather than at center throughout his career.
Yeah. But I think that's a pretty good 1-2 punch, actually, Duchene and Nugent Hopkins. If Duchene does go back to being a center, I mean, you have that's not a bad young 1-2 center.
But I think it goes against what Ottawa's looking to do. I think what Ottawa is looking to do is get young NHL players, not prospects, but young NHL players. And I don't.
I agree.
No, I think so, and I think those kind of players are out there, and I honestly think they're out there to get. Yeah, I think those kind of players can be gotten for a lot less, right? So because there's like, I go back to this, and I know we use Alex Chason all the time, but when you mentioned his name, and watching that series, it just really occurred to me. It really rang true to me that Alex Chason should have been on Vegas. Like, that's the kind of on that team, he would be a serious contributor and would have had a great year. Instead, he was in and out of the press box on a team, and it was kind of crazy. But those so you can go get the Alex Chasons. I really want to do an article on who those guys are and just go through the league and find them, because
and teams. I mean, more than ever this year, with what happened with Vegas and what happened with Washington and with the realities of the salary cap, teams are going to be looking. There's going to be a lot of bargain basement shopping. There's no doubt. But in this instance, Ottawa is looking for, I would say, 1 to 2 young players who can be NHL. And stars is maybe too strong of a word, but I'll use say St. Louis as an example, because I've heard St. Louis be attached to a guy like Karlsson, like a guy like Robbie Fabry and a guy like Jordan Kyrou. If it was Karlsson going to St. Louis, those two guys would probably have to be in that deal. Yeah, because that's what Ottawa would want.
Those are good names. You're talking good names there. To be clear, looking at our chat room for a second there, it is 3 years. So it's this year, 2019, 20. So it's 2018, 2019, 2019, 2020, and 2020, 21.
Okay.
So it's 3 years.
It's 3 years.
3 years at $6 million per. Which and we don't know what the actual money is, but that would be important to Eugene Melnyk, because if it's $6 million cap hit and the money was front loaded, then it would be even more attractive. But honestly, I think they would have, from Edmonton, they would have to get a lot more than Nugent Hopkins for Karlsson.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking Hopkins at this point in his career. Last year is the kind of year you could expect from him: 24 goals, 48 points. He's not really doing more than that anymore.
Yeah. But that is also hard to say because of the situation he's been in, right? What
situation has he been in? I mean, he still plays on the power play with Connor McDavid.
He does. But he's always been. I always feel like he's been like the other guy. Like when Taylor Hall was there, and then Taylor Hall left. was basically when Draisaitl.
Yeah, so he did. He went from 18 goals to 24 goals. That's his career high.
And see, this is the thing. This is just the tip of the iceberg for the Senators. I mean, first Hoffman, obviously,
right.
Carlson, Cody Ceci is an RFA. He's going to expect probably to get around $4 million. Matt Duchene's got a year left in his contract, and then he's a UFA. I mean, I would not want to be Pierre Dorian right now. He's got the toughest job in the league to deal with all this stuff, all the off the ice stuff, and what he's going to deal with in terms of the draft and getting people signed.
Yeah. No, he does.
The one thing I want to make real clear in this, from my perspective, there's not much Pierre Dorian could have done about any of this. This is all things the last couple of months that have happened that are pretty much out of his control, that just makes his job hard.
Yeah, that's true. That's a really good point. No, it really is. And I mean, this is more of a coaching thing in some ways. Like, this is something that, Shea definitely, had to deal with. Because this is definitely in the coach. A lot of the stuff that's happened is in the coaching. And Dorian can't really do much about what the ownership is telling him above, as far as what he can spend on Carlson too. So he's up there.
So I need to do a prospect profile real quick, because people were killing me yesterday, and I know I want to try and do one a day, or a couple. I'll do a couple more on Monday and Tuesday at least.
Hey, one a day keeps the doctor away.
Yeah, Barrett Hayton's a good one. He's a center. He played for the Sioux Greyhounds, which means he played with Morgan Frost, for you Flyers fans out there. 60 points in 63 games, 21 and 24 in the playoffs. Really good, greasy center who definitely can make plays. He's smart defensively. He's strong, and he's 196 pounds now, 6'1", 196, I think it was at the combine, or 190 something. It's very sturdy, smart. I think he's the second best center in this draft. So is it possible, though, that someone wants him in the top 10? Anything's possible. In this draft, if someone says, hey, we have a top 10 pick, and then we don't pick again until, name the thing, 35th or something, yeah, they might reach out and get him. The same with Kotkaniemi. I mean, because it's not a center-rich draft, and Kotkaniemi and Hayton are really the only two guys that I would identify as having even a chance to be in a top liner in the NHL. But I think Hayton's more of like a second, and I think could be a third even, and I think Kotkaniemi is more like a second as well. So, but somebody might really want him and say, hey, you know what? He's great on faceoffs. He does everything we want him to do. We'll worry about where he fits in later. I am getting the feeling that teams, for the first time, are going to go a little bit with needs, organizational needs, over best player available. So I'm not getting hung up on best player available for teams. I'm also not doing a mock. I don't do it. But
a little bit of Barrett Hayton, by the way. I'm bringing him some stuff as you're talking.
But as an example, I just think a lot of teams could use a guy like this. It's funny that how many teams can we name around the league that don't have a first-line center? So if somebody identifies him as a first-line center, they're going to take him pretty high. I mean, they're going to take him, top 15, top 17, something like that. If they think he's a first-line center, they're going to take him higher. I think he's more like second or third. I would take him somewhere between 10 and 17.
And that's the key, Russ. If because we heard at the combine that, because the name Kotkaniemi regarding Montreal, who's third overall, I was just talking generally with somebody, and they said, well, they think he could be a first line guy, and I'm like, okay, well then they could very definitely take him at 3, or maybe if they see value in moving down a little bit and getting an extra pick, move down into the lower part of the top 10 and take him. But if they're wrong and he's not a number one center, I mean, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Columbus rolled the dice on him, making the transition from wing to center, and now after last year, I think that Jarmo Kekalainen has proved to be right, because he may not be a 70-point guy, but he's big, he's fast, he's good two-way, and he can fit into that first-line role effectively. But if Kotkaniemi can do that, then he's a top 5 to top 10 pick. If the team misjudges what he is, and he's nothing more than a second liner, which is nothing to sneeze at, but then he's probably a middle of the first round pick.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, I think a couple weeks ago to a month ago, with the Flyers pick the 14th, he'd have been there. I think after the playoff run and everything else, he won't be there. And I think if for some reason if Kotkaniemi goes and is picked third, like I would call that the nuclear option for this draft, because then I think the next team that identifies that they need a center is going to take Hayton higher than what we all expect, because they're going to go.
He doesn't look particularly big. Yes, he's not.
He's 6'1".
He's 6'1". Okay.
Yeah, there'll be a run, Russ. And the thing is, the pool is not very deep in terms of centers in the first round. I mean, I've been focusing on the Leafs, and the Leafs picked 25th, and from what I had learned at the combine, they talked to almost every center. Yeah. And if that's the case, then if you look at the center depth in their organization, it's virtually non-existent. So that adds up. But I continue to think
go with the guy, the Leafs, as an example. Like Hayton, I just looked it up from the combine. It was 190, so it's a really good solid weight. And he'll put on a few more pounds, but not too much more. But he'll get stronger, as all prospects do. I think the Leafs could look at someone like Philip Hallander, who will be there when they're there, and he is a guy that I've seen play a top line role in a tournament, not as a center, as a winger, but he has the ability to play center. And at 6'1", around 185, he could be a guy they roll the dice on and say, you know what, we think he could be a center. Let's go with this.
Now, if the Leafs were picking in the middle of the first round, I would say that Hayton would be a possibility, simply because Sault Ste. Marie, the connection between Kyle Dubas and the current general manager of Sault Ste. Marie. I think he was an assistant under Dubas when he was the GM there, so there is a connection. So
yeah, there's definitely a connection with the Leafs. You're right. I look at it. I know Flyers fans are for some reason hoping for an offensive player. I think they're going to go defense. They've got problems on defense now with Sam Morin and also that Philippe Myers doesn't stay healthy. And I think based on that, and Mark Friedman may only be a year away, but you know what? He's a bottom pairing guy. I think at the end of the day, they're going to be looking at some guys like Keandre Miller and such who are physical, fast defensemen, because if Morin never makes it, which is a very good possibility now, they still are going to need that sort of presence on their blue line and probably going to still look to draft that.
Eck, before we end the show, I know we have a few minutes here, but we have to talk about the buyout window, which starts tomorrow. And I think we're going to see some action there. I mean, I was talking to Russ before the show, and it's like, I looked up 2 or 3 guys who I think are almost guaranteed. One is like, it's low hanging fruit. Matt Molson will be bought out by Buffalo. They sent him down to the American Hockey League, and they didn't even want to send him to their own AHL team. They sent him out to California. So he has 1 year left, and on his contract, and I think that the cap hit was $5 million, but the money was significantly less. So the spread out over 2 years will be less. The interesting name, if you look at something like Cap Friendly, which tracks like the number of people or the number of hits they get on particular players who are, to inquire whether they're being bought out. The name that is being looked up the most, and I don't understand it, is Carl Alsner with the Montreal Canadiens. Now, I think it was a 4-year contract. It was less than $5 million. I can't. If Mark Bergevin buys out Carl Alsner, I mean, that's a statement on how bad he is as a general manager, because he's not a bad defenseman. He didn't really overpay him.
They spent too much on him, but but you're right. He's a very serviceable defenseman. And I think that's just because of Montreal fans are Montreal fans on that one. I'll tell you the names I've been hearing. A lot of people are saying Scott Darling, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're actually going to move Scott Darling. I think there is chatter about Scott Darling heading back to Chicago in a deal. Yeah, I mean, Marian Gabrick's a name, that comes up.
Yeah, I think that's a definite, because.
Wait, where does Marian Gabrick's name come up, for retirement at the PA office?
No, as a buyout. He's got.
As a buyout. Okay.
Yeah. No,
that makes sense. Then. Yes. Alsner, I don't see being bought out.
Another one. I think this is a really good bet. Is the Flyers buying out Yuri Laterra.
I still think it's 50-50 on that, because the end of the season he showed that he could penalty kill, And if they don't have anybody for the penalty kill, they may actually hold on to him if they're in a position where they're not in cap trouble. If they're in cap trouble, he's getting bought out.
Yeah, I was going to say a $4.8 million penalty killer. I think you can find somebody to do that.
I mean, Tyler Ennis is another one I've heard.
I can see Tyler Ennis
in Minnesota.
I'll give you a name. It's popular for the fans to say you should buy it out. It's not popular probably in the room, but could the Rangers buy out Mark Stahl? Yeah, I think they could with the new direction they're going in. They're going to be short on the blue line anyhow. If D'Angelo makes the team and he's going to play more, then maybe they will cut bait with Mark Stahl.
Well, a lot of these guys will find homes, but he would definitely find a home quickly.
He would find a home in a different role, but he wouldn't be making that kind of money on that team because I'll get you his contract. It's not a great contract.
Well, I mean, you mentioned Lucic before, and I mean, I don't know how Edmonton would do that because I believe that contract is mostly signing bonus for most of the years, and they end up saving no money. See, that's the thing. Milan Lucic if they are able to trade him, is that it's something like, okay, we retain $2 million or we take back a salary that's shorter but maybe the same amount of cap hit.
Right. To buy out for Mark Stahl. So he's got $12 million remaining plus a $3 million signing bonus. He has 3 years on his deal. The buyout length would be 6 years, and it would cost them $1.355. I got to think that's a very good chance they're going to do that.
Huh. Do you think they can get another defenseman as good as Mark Stahl for that money?
They're rebuilding.
They're rebuilding. So that doesn't matter.
Yeah, but what you're talking about, you're only saving $1.35 million.
No. You're saving a lot more than that. Remember the 3 years on the length of his deal is 12.2 base and $3 million on a signing bonus. That's $15 million.
Okay, right. He's saving. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, maybe I think Brandon Dubinsky's a better chance. Like, I think Dubinsky's has 3 years and $17.5 million left on his contract. That to me is
Torts loves him. I don't think he'll get bought out unless he has a bad injury. I don't think he's.
But remember, there's stuff there. I mean, I don't know.
If there was a 2-day window where Zach Bogosian was actually healthy, the Sabres should buy him out because 2 days later he'll get hurt again and you can't buy him out.
Now I'll give you something where Lou is probably cursing at the sky today, Lou Lamoriello, because if you wanted to buy out Johnny Boychuk, he has $5,500,000 in signing bonus left. Signing bonus.
Yeah.
Is that on 1 year on next year's deal?
I don't know what year it's on, but he's got $20,500,000 left on his salary.
Wow.
Yeah, don't think for a second that Lou's not going to get in an Erik Karlsson deal. By the way, there's absolutely. I've been told that today. There's absolutely no way he's not going to be involved, and he's going to try. And they would love to end up with Karlsson and Tavares at the end of all this. I was told. So I think
I have to mention this because I included it in my column today, was the fact that Arthur Staple, who's been covering the Islanders now he's covering them for the Athletic. He didn't think it was that much of a joke that the Leafs really could be involved on Tavares, that it's plausible, and that he would listen to his hometown team if they're interested. And I just sort of threw this out there. I don't know. I don't have any kind of inside information on it, but the Leafs have $22 million on the cap. What's to stop the Leafs? It's completely legal for them to offer a 1-year max deal. Which, if the cap was $80 million, a max deal would be $16 million. For them to offer a 1-year max deal at $16 million, and then after January 1st, when they were eligible to offer him an extension, them to sign him to a 7-year extension.
Yeah,
that's not out of the realm of possibility. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but I think people overlooking that. I think Kyle Dubas is somebody who's going to think outside the box, and I don't think you can get more outside the box than signing Tavares.
That, if Tavares does indeed want to do his buddies, like I've said for years, I've known some of Tavares' friends who are just desperate for him to play on Toronto. He could make his friends happy and make a lot of money in 1 year, why not? I just think that from what I've heard, it sounds like he's pretty happy with what Lou has told him so far. At least whether or not that continues or not, we still have a long way to go. And but so what's interesting about some of these buyouts, like like someone told me that James Neal would have been bought out last year if he would, which is not true. But some of these buyout players, like Mark Stahl probably would have ended up on an expansion team if there was an expansion draft. Like,
yes,
he would be one of those guys, right? He would be one of their top guys.
Well, I think the buyout, who gets bought out, will be a window into whether a team is going to like spend big money someplace else. Like, for example, if Dallas buys out Jason Spezza at 1 year left, $7.5 million, then it's plausible that they're clearing money to sign Tyler Seguin to an extension, or they're going after Tavares.
Right, or Lucic, some people say. That's come up like that Dallas.
By the way, here's the one thing we're learning, and so the savings on Boychuk will be a little over $5 million in the end, and the savings on Stahl will be a little over 4.6 in the end. Here's what you're learning. Basically, the agents are building in these signing bonuses, so you can't buy out their clients.
No question.
Because that's what kills your buyout is these signing bonuses.
I mean, even on smaller contracts, Russ, even like role players, like and Matt Martin is making $2.5 million on a 4-year deal. After July, he has a $1.5 million signing bonus on this year's contract. If the Leafs wait until after July 1st and pay the $1.5 million, then he's a $1 million salary with a $2.5 million cap hit. That's something that a team like Arizona or a team that's looking to the cap floor, with the cap floor going up, will probably be interested in, because he's not a terrible player.
No.
And so I think that like there won't be a buyout of Matt Martin from the Leafs, because half of his remaining contract is signing bonus. But I think they can
pay that signing bonus either, because that falls on the bottom line, and it won't matter that much this year. But going forward, if the Leafs have a player like that, it'll matter.
A lot.
As cap room shrinks for them, because they're gonna, even though the cap's going up, the Leafs are going to start to spend a lot more money.
Yes,
that's a really good point. There's the buyouts are always interesting, and what is always fascinating too are the the players that once they're bought out. Like, for example, Jason Spezza is a good example. Like, if he's bought out, I'm taking a chance on him. Like, I would definitely take a chance on him. I know he had a rough year last year, but I still think that there were times, it was just 2 years ago, that Spezza was killing it. It wasn't that long ago that he was doing really, really well. And he's got all that talent. He's obviously doesn't get the ice time down there with the other guys that are down there. And he does. I think the situation would be, he's another guy that if there was a Seattle team, that would be a great pickup. Like right away. I mean, he's a guy who really brings a lot to the table. And there's, I think Stahl would be a great pickup for somebody too. I just think that if that happens, that's what. Now the one thing I want to bring up real quickly before we go is the Lucic thing I have to write about today. That the Montreal Canadiens talked to Edmonton about Lucic, and it's fascinating to me because we heard in the last couple of days that you heard the other part of that, like that Lucic doesn't want to play for a team in Canada, right? That came out.
I never heard that. Okay.
Yeah, I think that was spurred on by the fact he didn't want to play.
Does he know that Quebec's in Canada? Maybe he doesn't.
I think this was spurred on by the fact he didn't want to play for the Canadiens.
I was going to say, does he realize he's Canadian?
No, but I think him saying that no to that. I think the impression I get, and this is a lot of dot connecting, I admit. But the impression I get was that Montreal. I know Montreal had interest in him. I heard that a couple months ago, which was surprising to me and in general, because you're talking about like a really hated player in Montreal, right? I mean, he was the big bad Bruin. It would be really fascinating to see Lucic in Montreal, but that he had that, but that he wasn't going to go to Montreal, and I was told that it was because he had a no trade clause. And then suddenly you're starting to hear that Canada doesn't want to play in Canada. I don't know I'm not so sure that he doesn't want to play in all of Canada, because I talked to some people about this, and that is what's coming out now, and that's what everybody's saying. But I'm not.
I can't imagine that he wouldn't want to play in Vancouver, because Vancouver is his hometown, or is his home province at least. I know that. But they're in a rebuild, so and again, everything is contingent on Edmonton retaining salary or taking salary back. If they don't, if they're actually trying to trade Lucic and they're not like shaving $2 million off his salary for the remaining 5 years or taking back a significant salary, good luck, Peter Chiarelli. You're not moving him.
No, it's totally fine.
It's not happening.
I agree completely. That's all the time we have for today, guys. Mike, enjoy Game 7 tonight. We'll talk to you tomorrow about this, or what? Yes, tomorrow's still Friday. Yes,
Tomorrow's still Friday.
And we will have
like it should be.
And we will have Kevin Allen tomorrow.
Oh, great. Excellent. My buddy Kevin. We'll talk. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. Enjoy.